Yo, what's up guys? Welcome to J Cloud's Anime Talk, and here with the first edition versus battle on this channel, and that is All Might vs Superman. And it won't necessarily be a death battle, but it'll be comparing the characters. How are they similar? But before we do that, we have to do a brief summary of their backstories, and we'll do that next here on J Cloud's Anime Talk. Now, as far as All Might's backstory, we will keep it strictly on the anime only, to avoid any spoilers, and the good thing about it, I'm not ahead on the manga, so this is good for both of us. So with that being said, let's go with what we know from the anime. Now when it comes to All Might, we don't know anything about his parents, we don't know if he had any siblings, brothers or sisters, but one thing we do know is that he was born without a quirk, until one day he met his master, Shimura, who has the ability of One For All, and One For All is the ability of a quirk that can be passed down to generation. And soon after that, he became the #1 hero. And that is how All Might became All Might, and that is how he got his quirk abilities. But throughout his younger days and his journey, he ran into the #1 villain, and that is All For One. And All Might was able to stop him, but the cause of it is that it left him a big scar on his body, and he was not able to maintain his strong form anymore. To the point where that form had a time limit on it, and whenever that time was up, he goes back to his original form before he had a quirk, becoming ordinary again. And since the power of One For All allows you to pass down the quirk ability to a person, to another person, to another person, All Might eventually passed that power down to Midoriya. Especially given the fact that he was on the brink of retirement and he couldn't last in that form anymore, especially after his last battle with All For One, where he finally defeated him for good. But it forced him to retirement and All Might was all done. Now when it comes to Superman, no matter which version you use, when it comes to his classical background, that story really never changes, so we will go with the most common one that everybody knows about. Superman is a Kryptonian who was born on the planet Krypton, but the planet was on the brink of destruction. His father Jor-El tried to warn the other Kryptonians that the planet was going to be destroyed, but no one listened to him, so he was forced to send his child to Earth to establish and continue the legacy of the Kryptonian bloodline. He was later found and raised by his adopted parents named Martha Kent and Jonathan Kent, and they named him Clark Kent, and they raised him like it was their very own child. And they also knew that Clark was from another planet because he showcased his abilities early on in his childhood. But despite the fact that Clark grew up really strong compared to everybody else on Earth, he was bullied a lot growing up, didn't have much of a social life, but when it comes to his adopted father, he was like his best friend. But once his adopted father died, that changed everything. And his father's final words were, "Never stop the good fight and be the change in this world." And that is when Superman took on the mantle of the Man of Steel and was viewed as society as Superman, a god among men and the strongest hero of all time. So when it comes to All Might vs Superman, what makes these characters similar, and I guess for starters, is about what they represent in the society of their own verse, and that is, both of these characters are all about justice and nothing else, and they are literally the face of heroes in their series. No matter what it is, everybody relies on them when it comes to anything in their own series, because both characters are both representations of the symbol of peace. There are so many great heroes in the organization of the Justice League, and that is Batman, Flash, Green Lantern, etc. But when it comes to a big time villain that's showing up that no one can stop, it's Superman. They rely on Superman. Just like when it comes to a fight between him and Darkseid. He was the only one that can stop him, and he's the only one who's strong enough, and even the villains know that when they show up because they only want to challenge Superman and no one else, because they know Superman is a huge threat. Now when it comes to the organizations of the pro heroes in My Hero Academia, you have so many great heroes there, but everybody knows in that series, when a big time villain shows up and no one else can stop him, they rely on the #1 hero, and that is All Might. Just like how All Might was the one who was able to fight the Nomus, and he was the only one who could. Just like when All For One showed up and he was gonna destroy everything, who was gonna stop him and who they rely on? All Might. And it's the same thing how they rely on Superman in his own verse. Another thing that both of these characters have in common are their disguises. Superman disguised himself as an ordinary person who just works at an office doing newspapers because he doesn't want everybody to know that he's Superman. And when it comes to All Might kind of hides himself because society already knows that he is represented as the #1 hero, but without using his quirk, he looks like a basic, skinny, average Joe. And I guess you can say it's more hard on All Might disguising himself because without that quirk, he's quirkless. Especially the fact that he has to force himself to retire because he's no longer able to use that quirk after the fight between him and All for One. Both of these characters already know that if they walked around without their disguises, it would lead too much attention to them and everybody would know who they are, and it would cause more of a target on their hands. Because what comes with great power comes with great responsibility, and both characters understand that. Both characters know that they have so much influence in their own series to the point where deep down even the villains are inspired and they want to be just like them. And I think the creator of My Hero Academia made All Might in that way because he was influenced by Superman. Just about every character in any series is almost inspired by Superman when it comes to the spandex and the cape because Superman was the first to do it. To his personality, to his charisma, All Might definitely has the traits of Superman. Now when it comes to their powers, their abilities, the way it's set up, the only thing that's really common between them is their super strength. Superman is a lot more versatile than All Might. Not to mention that Superman is one of the most broken characters of all time. He's like the first Mary Sue. And when it comes to an actual death battle, I don't ever see these characters fighting. And not only that, it would be unfair because Superman is way too powerful for All Might. And I think if they ever met in the same verse, they would show respect for each other and they'll probably save and help civilians together and defeat the villain together. They are too much alike, and I think if they ever fought, they'll probably spar together in which Superman will win. So yeah, that is the first addition to a versus battle on this channel, and if you guys enjoy these, make sure to leave a like, and you want me to do more and want to see more, subscribe to the channel if you're new. Thank you guys for watching. I'm J Cloud. I'm out. League or nothing.